Um, Thank you everyone for joining us. My name is Deborah Porta. I'm the Executive Director of Pride Northwest. Welcome to Pride Table Talks. We come together each month, the last Wednesday of each month, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, to have in-depth virtual conversations centering on the lived experiences of older Pacific Northwest lesbians of all gender spectrums. Pride Table Talks is a collaborative between Pride Northwest, GLAPN, and Sage Portland. Our collective goal is to record and document the stories and experiences of Pacific Northwest lesbians of all backgrounds. We're glad that you can join us. This month is a super special episode, if you will, for a lot of us, because our own, we're all going to claim Margaret Ann. Margaret Ann Jones is our guest and for this conversation, and I'm really excited to have Dr. Deborah Burke from Portland State University here to facilitate this conversation. Deb Burke is an artist and social justice educator living in Portland, Oregon, of course. Deb loves painting with oils on large canvases to explore what it means to be embodied and in relationship with the natural world. As a social justice educator through dialogue, reflection, and art, Deb supports individuals and communities in strengthening their understanding of oppression and privilege, exploring their lived experiences within these systems, and emotionally healing and identifying practices, personally, communally, and institutionally, to foster just, humane communities. Currently, she has the honor of facilitating a community-based capstone, LGBTQ Portland History at Portland State University in partnership with the Gay and Lesbian Archives of the Pacific Northwest, otherwise known as GLAPN. Thanks for joining us, Deb. Deb is going to have a conversation and lead the conversation with Margaret Ann. And at this point, I will step back and let y'all take it from here.
All right.
All right, thank you.
Well, Margaret Ann, I am absolutely honored to be here with you today. And I wanted to start out by asking you about your early life and growing up in the Oxnard barrio and what that was like.
Okay. Well, the first thing you have to know about me is I am a trauma kid. It took me a lot of years to learn that, and a lot of help and, trying to figure out what was up with me. Like many, unfortunately, like many, there was a lot of abuse, violence in my family, my growing up family. My mom and dad, there were two of us, my sister Janice and myself. That's how I came to Portland, is my sister lived here. And Colonia was mainly Blacks and Browns, and poor. They were poor whites who lived in the barrio. So culture was, different cultures were always a part of my life as well. My dad was a preacher, so, at home, our table was always welcome to whoever, and also because of he was a preacher in the community. At an early age, I would go with him to different folks' house, and I read their mail for them. As I got older, I would go and pay their, bills, their light bills they'd send me in. So for some, I read to them, like if they got a letter. Some didn't know how to read. So, and this was back in, let me see, probably late 50s, that I was doing all of that. Church was huge. That was the only place we could go, and that's where my friends were. So go to church whenever the doors was open. And, being a PK kid, she had a preacher's kid, you were expected to be perfect, which was not me. I got in more trouble for lots of stuff. But school was an outlet. I had, teachers who, for whatever reason, they took a liking to me, and I got called the teacher's pet and all like that. But that was a really good thing. I got, some special attention there. What else? At the time, because my dad was a preacher, he got paid in pounds. They called them then, and that was food. People didn't have the money, but they would bring food. So you'd open the front door and there would be boxes of fruit or, that kind of thing. Also, what I remember most is we lived next door to a field, and there were different crops in that field, and it would just permeate my bedroom. So I loved waking up smelling whatever was growing in the field, which I can't smell the fruit that's in the grocery stores now. So there's a big problem with food to me. So that was, most of our schools the elementary schools were in the barrio, and it wasn't until I was in high school that we had to cross the tracks, and we had to travel some ways, to get to high school.
I want to ask you about high school, but before we do, could you talk a little bit more about what it means for you to understand that you were a trauma kid and how you came to understand that?
For a lot of us who are trauma kids, especially violent, and my mom was the one who was the violent person. And it wasn't until, I spent a lot of times just being afraid. You never knew, you were always sensing, trying to figure out how the house was going to be. So I was always on alert, and also always flight or fight. That's the way you felt.
Yeah.
So, and you never knew. We used to get, we'd be dead asleep and she would beat us, or, my sister and I, or it was just, it was just unbearable sometimes, that those kinds of things would happen. Also, we had, I didn't learn this until later through Isabel Wilkerson's book, Under Two Suns, I think, something. Anyway, and I had to realize that the people, and especially my family coming out of the South, my dad came from Mississippi, my mom through Texas. And, Black people at the time coming out of slavery, there was no interventions for them, or, there was no mental health or any of that, so I learned later in doing ancestry, I think, there was one of my relatives, he was 13 at the time, was put on a chain gang for vagrancy. He had gone into a store, had just walked up, the story goes, and he was picked up by the police at the time. and put on a chain gang for vagrancy. And, I can imagine he was violent. He, 13 years old, he was fresh, young meat, so to speak. So I think that's where some of the generational trauma started for us. I had aunts and uncles, my mom's sisters and brothers who were, man, I had an aunt who, she could have been a mathematician. She just loved numbers, but there was nowhere you could go, with those talents, nothing you could do. So we had, there was alcoholism in the family, drug use, just like, other families who are dealing with stuff like that now, but that was my family, So, yeah, so they did what was done to them, I can imagine, My mom, another thing with me in trauma, my mom used to tell us that we were put on this earth to make her life miserable. So out of that, I never want to be an imposition. I grew up learning that. I never stay if it feels like I'm not wanted, or, you know what I mean? It's uncomfortable for the other person. I'm out of there. So that was the response that I lived with for a long time until, I got help for that. I still don't like being a bother to anyone. So it's hard for me to ask, people to do things personally for me. I've got issues with my own family. I'm not a family person, because you couldn't trust family. So that's kind of the trauma I felt with the molestations and stuff like that. I felt that I was just a container for men, for a long time in my younger days. So I had to work through that. And fortunately, I had people to come into my life who took time. Yeah, who took time with me and made a way, opened doors. So, yep.
It sounds like a lot of suffering very, very, very early in life.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I think I was about four. And another thing that was going on, we had relatives, right, who generationally, I think it came down through generation. There was this one, he was a preacher, I remember. He would go from family member, it didn't matter, family member, just somebody he knew from the church, and people automatically open their doors, right? This is a pastor and he gets the best part of the chicken and, that kind of stuff. So, but he was also a molester. So he traveled, and that's, the story goes, that's what he did. He traveled to us. That's what he did. So, yes, those kinds of things. But it all stems back from, I think, from slavery, from the treatment, and then no interventions, no mental health, no, think about it. What do you do when you've been treated as badly as people were treated during slavery, and then you let them loose? They're now free, but there was nothing really available to them. So that's what I learned.
Yeah. Historical trauma.
Yep. Historical trauma. Exactly.
And after slavery, white supremacy was still intense and violent and
yeah,
and segregation. So it's not like all of a sudden everybody's free and things are great now.
Exactly.
The traumatizing isn't stopping.
No, it doesn't. And
Yeah.
it continues, and it's, I ran into it again for myself when I was in high school,
Yeah.
you know, when we were told that I wanted to be a nurse, and I was a candy striper, and I really wanted to be a nurse, right? And my counselor, I remember she had me come in, and we were doing, what are you going to do after you graduate, da, da, da. And she told me that I could be a nurse's aide. And she also told me that she was trying to help me by telling me that, and she really did. She really believed she was helping me, you know, by telling me that that was where I should put my energy, is just being a nurse's aide, because that's all you'll be.
Mm.
Yep.
That's paternalism at its worst.
Yep.
So you started high school, and when we spoke, you talked about that being when you really noticed racism and its intensity. And I'm assuming, well, actually, I'm not going to make any assumptions. I'll just ask the question. During high school, you met Adrian and Bev.
Mm-hmm.
Could you talk about a little bit more about what high school was like and how you met Adrian?
Well, I went to Oxnard Senior High, which was on the other side of town. Where we lived at, there were train tracks that completely surrounded, you know, uh, where we lived. So we had to get to school, we had to either try and get there before the trains ran, or there were some times where the trains had stopped. We would have to climb over, where we could, to go to school, because even though it was a train that made us late, we were punished for being late because of the train, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there was that. There was, I remember we had slave day at our school, right? So you bought somebody and they had to carry your books or whatever, but it was called slave day. And that was something. And I was in remedial classes from a freshman all the way up until I met Adrian. And even though a lot of us were making straight A's, the next year they put us back in remedial classes.
Mm-hmm.
So I noticed that. And, that preys on you, that, why I'm getting A's, but yet, I'm still here. And it was mostly Black and brown or white that was in the class,
Mm-hmm.
So we had that going on.
Mm-hmm.
And then when Adrian came, my mentor, I think I was getting kicked out of class for something. I'd either speak up for somebody else, or, so, and she was the vice principal, so I'd get sent to her office. I didn't trust her either. She was this white woman, right? But she kept coming at me. She was the one who took me out of remedial classes and put me in my first college prep class.
Mm-hmm.
It was her.
Mm-hmm.
She was the one who made sure that I got to walk with my class and graduate, because I had gotten pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
But she pulled strings, so I got to walk with my class.
Mm-hmm.
And here was this short, little, feisty Jewish woman who came into my life, and who she would come into the barrio. She would come and have dinner with the people I was living with, my aunt and uncle at the time, and she was just amazing to me. because she showed me that there were other things in life. You know, she flew a plane. She oh wow, I got to go to hear music like symphonies, or she just opened doors for me. And she was the first who told me that I was worth something. She just demonstrated that. She started this group. It wasn't just me. There were other girls in the community who, were having issues as well. So she started a drill team, a girls' drill team called the Colonnades. And it gave us purpose. It gave us, we competed. She just built our self-esteem in so many ways. That was what she did for more than just me. And she has been to every graduation I've ever had. She's, have just been there for me. Yeah.
When I had the opportunity to talk with Adrienne and Bev, one of the things that Adrienne said about you was Margaret Ann's a leader. She's always been a leader. She's never bossy, and she's always herself. She understood the undertones of what was going on at the high school and would give me suggestions. She helped me be a better leader.
That's pretty special. She was fired from her job or let go or whatever you want to call it because she stood up for us, for a lot of us. And as a result, almost the whole entire student body walked out of school in protest. So that tells you how she was for a lot of us. Yeah. And she still stayed in the neighborhood. I think she taught school at the Catholic church there. They had a school, private school, so she taught there. And, she always remained close by. Yeah.
As I was reflecting on my conversation with both you and her, I just have this image of the it seems like friendship that the two of you had, and that you were both strategizing on how to confront and dismantle white supremacy. But
I think she listened. That was the thing. She listened to me and what I was sharing with her, that I was experiencing. And she was that counter voice to that, and that's why I love her. I think that she saw me, and she took the time to see me.
Yeah. So you graduated from high school.
Yep.
And you had a baby at the time.
Yep. My oldest.
And then did you meet Ed after high school?
No, I had my baby. I got into, well, there's a lot of things that happen, why. I got pregnant because I needed a place to stay, and that was the cost. A lot of times that's the cost. So that's how I got pregnant. But for me, it was like a blessing, a total blessing, and a lot of girls will say, once you get pregnant, you have someone to love. And that was me. I finally had someone to love, someone to take care of. So I got on welfare for a while. I got an apartment in the projects. I bought my first car. I worked as a nurse's aide. I did do that. And well, first I was on welfare because I had just had the baby, and my social worker kept coming in. Back in the day, they had the right to come in your place. They could look through your closets. They could look to see what food's in your cabinets, and then they would threaten you. If you voice, and I always said something, but if you voice, objections, well, why there's no men here. Why you gotta look and, and even if there was, what's up with that? And she kept saying, well, I'll just cut you off welfare, da, da, da. So one day I told her, you know what? You can take your welfare and stick it up where the sun don't shine, but I didn't say that part. And I went out and I got a job. So that's when I started working. And, worked ever since. But I thank her, because she gave me what I needed at the time to, to take better care of myself and my baby. Then I got married. Let's see. I got married. I was almost 19 when I got married. And in fact, I got married because my mom said it was, because I had a boy and he was going to need a father. And at the time, this man was, he was following me home, making sure I got in and, that kind of thing. And my mom said that was the best I would probably ever do. So we got married. Wrong. I will give him, he did take care of us financially. He was a very good about taking care of. I never had to want for anything, but there is always a price. And, I'm used to doing what I want to do. And I tried to be a dutiful wife. That's what my mom, dad, all of them, that's what I saw, but I couldn't do it, especially when we started having domestic violence, and I had swore no one was ever going to beat me again. So it would be World War III between he and I. And then finally I couldn't do it. I lasted, my kids were out of high school. And then that's when I left. I went back to school. And also my daughter was special needs. So I stayed, because of her, and she needed medical and all that was provided. So I stayed. But then it got to be too much. I couldn't do it anymore. So I went back to our junior college there. A lot of good things happened. I was the associate president at our college, and I did things like, and with help too, please, no, with help. I brought the Black community in. We did a luncheon, and I had students speak to them about their goals and what they needed. And we were looking for mentors. That's what I was trying to developed was a mentorship program, and we did African Americans, we did Latinos. They came, and to this day, that program is still going on at the college. So that was really cool to know. We brought Filipinos in that community, and it was just, having the students talk about, what they needed, what supports, that the community could provide for them. We did that. What else there? We had International Students Day. I don't know if it was the first, probably the first. And we had, we did a play. I went to the drama program, and I asked the professor if we could do a Black play, because all the plays were white, white characters and that. And so she said that she had tried, but no, she needed help. So off we go. I found actors. I was found props. They rehearsed at my house. And it was the largest. We did Raisin in the Sun, right? Lorraine Hansberry. And it was the most attended play they ever had at Oxnard College. It made the most money, of all. So it was wonderful. It was wonderful, yeah.
How did you choose Raisin in the Sun, or how was that chosen?
Well, I think the professor did, but it was, my thing was we needed to have a Black play.
Yeah.
So, and she didn't think people would come, but they came. I went to the churches and announced it, and we put it in the paper, and and the people came. So a mixed crowd too. So that was wonderful.
So that was the first Black play at Oxnard College.
Yep.
And a mentoring program for Black and Brown students.
Yep.
Yep.
And Filipino.
And Filipino students.
Yep. We did that. Oh, we took to earn money, right? They're in, they would pay you. Some of the Hollywood shows would pay you to be their audience. So we got a bus, the school, and we loaded it up. People had to pay a little bit to, for the bus, and off we go. And we'd be the audience, and it was so cool. Yeah.
What do you remember being cool about it?
There was he was Latino. His name was Joe, and he was, he had cerebral palsy. So he, his gait was off, and he had to use a walker, a special made walker. And we went to a show. What was it? It was some type of musical entertainment show, right? And so I'm sitting next to him, and he looks at me and he goes, "See, Margaret Ann," he says, "you need to stick with me. I'll get you the best." And then he was thinking one of the singers was looking dead at him. And so, look, she's looking at me. He got so excited. So those were the things that, just seeing the joy in their faces, and, it was something they wouldn't usually do. And, yeah, it was pretty cool.
So much beautiful leadership while you were at Oxnard College. And then you went to UC Santa Barbara.
Well, at Oxnard College, I got the Truman Scholarship.
Okay, that's okay.
That's how I got to UCSB. But I won a $28,000 scholarship for a program that I wrote with the help. I had help. One of my professors would read it and correct some of the words for me, that kind of stuff. But it was my idea.
Mm-hmm.
And I won. I got to go to Minnesota, and was it Minnesota? Anyway, I got to push Barbara Jordan's wheelchair.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you talk about highlight. That was, I couldn't believe. And she would look at me and she'd call me daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And she was the, featured speaker.
Mm-hmm.
And this was in 1990.
Mm-hmm.
And there were the Truman Scholars. There were only 2 chosen from the state, from each state.
Mm-hmm.
So I was one of the ones chosen for California.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that opened the door for me going to UCSB.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to just share a little context about the Truman Scholarship. It's for demonstrating outstanding, it says potential for public service, but you had already been so involved with public service. The scholarship is rigorous. You were one of 2 students from California, and that hundreds of college juniors compete for roughly 60 awards each year. So it was highly, highly, highly competitive.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And then how did you find yourself? I also want to talk a little bit about Barbara Jordan, who was a lawyer, an educator, a leader in the civil rights movement.
Mm-hmm.
She was the first African-American elected to the Texas Senate, and then the first Black woman from the South elected to the United States House of Representatives.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you find yourself with her and pushing her wheelchair and being called daughter? And
they had a scholarship weekend. Mm-hmm. And she had spoke a little bit the first day we were there, and then she was the keynote speaker toward the end of the week. So I would see her and just fawn at the mouth. And I just went up and was listening to her. She was talking to all the Black Truman Scholars who were there, and just encouraging us. And, we got to ask her questions, and she was, pushing her chair, and I just got behind her and, started pushing her, taking her where she needed to go. And she started talking to me, just asking me who I was. And I got to tell her what I felt, what she had done for me. And yeah, it was amazing. I never, coming from where I came from, I never could imagine, being there with the other. And there were, they had both younger students, traditional students, as well as us older students. We were in the running as well. So it was being in that atmosphere, and, yeah, it was wonderful. My husband at the time went, and Adrian was there, and my mom was there. you know.
Mm-hmm.
And
Hmm.
I remember I was so hurt. My husband told one of the lead, person that the only reason they chose me was because I was Black and female.
Mm.
And
Mm.
he could see the hurt. The guy, I can't remember his name now, but he walked me off to the side, and he told me, he says, "You hold your head up." And he told me if there was anything that I ever needed, to just let him know.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yep.
Hmm.
So amazing. That was an amazing time in my life.
Yeah.
Yep.
What did Barbara Jordan mean to you? How had she
Oh, God.
inspired you?
I had listened to her address. I had, I read about her. Adrian sent me a book. She was always sending me books. So she sent me a book on her, the autobiography kind of.
Mm-hmm.
And just seeing this Black woman, and, I loved her voice, and,
Mm.
and,
Mm.
and that's where I go to today. If, something's really bothering me, I will go and listen to Martin Luther King, or, go hear uh, his letter. I go back on YouTube or whatever and just listen. And sometimes I post them on Facebook just to remind people, this was the goal of civil rights. This was, what we should try and achieve,
Mm-hmm.
because we need each other. I've always felt that way. We, we're in this world, and I've always wondered, in history, there were times when Blacks and whites did get together. Few, but when they did amazing things, created amazing things. It was later destroyed by white supremacists, but
Mm-hmm.
still the capabilities there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of the things I've done has been to, to say that, I've always thought, well, maybe if, especially here in Portland, when I got here and I saw all the white people, I thought, oh my goodness.
Mm-hmm.
And then I realized that a lot of them had never, that were born and raised here, they hadn't been around Blacks. And they tell me they lived in towns where there were no Blacks. So I thought, well, maybe if they, could see that we do have things in common. I want a home. I want my kids to succeed, just like you.
Mm-hmm.
I follow the law.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind. I don't steal. I thought that some kind of way we could build. Well, my thing is, you build bridges in communities, and then hopefully we can build bridges toward each other.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I've always tried to do.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, it didn't.
Hmm.
The racism that I found in the LGBT community, that blew my mind. That, because I thought coming here, I thought I could be my authentic self. I could come out, and people would understand, because they too, especially white people, they too have been rejected by their families and da da da, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I got here, just out was that was a big help. I used to love Just Out, the newspaper. And so there was this book club starting or whatever, and that number was there. So I called, and they gave me the address and the whole bit. And I'm looking forward to, going and meeting new people and da da da. And as soon as that door was open, they saw I was Black. It was like, oh.
Mm-hmm.
They allowed me in, but they were so uncomfortable having me there. So I never went back. That's what I mean. If I feel, or if I'm making you uncomfortable, I'm out,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then with some, they would show me pictures of their family, their album books, and, that. And I'm looking through and I'm thinking, whoa, there are no people of color in these photographs. I mean, none,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
none. So that kind of, it's separate here,
Mm-hmm.
separate and not equal,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
even in the LGBTQ community. There's good folks, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying there are some good folks in our community, but that was my experience when I first came.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, trying to find where you fit, trying to, be a part, because I was really wanting a community and a place that I felt like I belonged.
Mm-hmm.
But those were far and few in between here.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So after that, how did you continue to try and seek after the book group? Did you continue to try and seek community with the LGBTQ community, or
Yep.
was that enough that you said no more? Or
No, that's when I got the idea
yeah.
that, people just didn't, they had very little reference points, or, they some of them didn't associate with Blacks, or we weren't even on their radar. I mean, it wasn't even a thought.
Mm-hmm.
And I told you the story of I joined this one group, and they said, okay, we're going to bring pictures of our mothers, right? And I'm the only Black person in the group. We're going to bring pictures of our mothers, and we're going to guess whose mother it is.
Mm-hmm.
And that told me right away. And it was done innocently. It really was. But I knew, this is that. They don't even see me. They don't even see me. So it's those little things that happens,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like, for me, sometimes it just, when you're the only one, and these little things keep happening, and it's, you're trying to show them that you're accepting, welcoming, and they're showing you so many times that you're not even a blip on their screen.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then that's when I leave,
Mm-hmm.
because it's too hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You're describing that experience of like not being seen as Black as a little thing, but that strikes me as a really big thing.
Yep.
And really and painful over and over again.
Over and over again. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And then we also talked some about your experience with the Black community in Portland and looking for belonging and connection there. What was, when you came to Portland, what was that like for you, and in meeting the Black community and finding connection and community?
Well, I got here in 92, so for sure, I had to learn that to say, get my hair products or buy the food that I wanted to buy, I had to go to Northeast, right? I lived in Southeast, but I had to learn the community in Northeast. So, I went to this one church. They have they have a choir. So I'd been hearing about this choir and I went. And then from the pulpit, I kept hearing how homophobic this church was. So I went about 2 or 3 times and then I couldn't do that anymore. To being told you're a sin, you're going to hell and all of that.
Right.
And so I left there and I was really looking for a church. My upbringing was church related. So I was looking for a home. And I think I must have looked almost 20 years. And then I found this one church. I just fell in love with it. The pastor was wonderful. Her husband, it was a UCC church. I would volunteer. I, helped in the kitchen. And it was just, I sang in the choir for a minute, and it was supposed to be open and affirming, right? Well, it's open, but it wasn't affirming to me. There was one incident is I had come in the church early so I could help because they do a social after services. So I came in, to help with that. And I was walking around. The woman who, was in the basement, and I was walking around asking her what did she want me to do, right? And so she's just kind of talking and walking ahead of me. And she wasn't, in the kitchen. I wanted to go and start in the kitchen, but I wanted her to let me know what to do, start the coffee or whatever. And she kept walking ahead of me, and she never would turn and look at me, or she never would tell me what was needed. And then I noticed when she finally turned, I noticed the fear. Oh my God, the fear. And I thought, well, what she think I'm gonna do? Jump her, rape her, what? But that hurt me so much. I remember going back to my car and I just broke down crying because I could see the homophobia. I could see it. And it was in church. And I wanted to do things like, the pastor was really good. And I think she was open to some of the things because I was asking, well, could we have a group to where we all sit and talk maybe, or, to try and build relationship, to make it more affirming because I wasn't hearing anything really, that was helpful for me as a lesbian or as a, so it just other incidents happened too. And I couldn't do that. So I left. Yeah. And now I don't do organized religion at all. I found my own relationship. Which that gives me what I need or helps me to be centered. So, yeah. But I'm sorry for that because good people were there. They did wonderful things within the community. And, I was in and out of folks' home trying to help. And, went to the hospital to visit folks. that, was like growing up with my dad again,
Mhm.
and the work he did in the community. But then there were so many uh, incidents which I couldn't do it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right. Too painful.
Mm-hmm. Too painful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when
But
go ahead.
I was going to say, I do, there's some good things there, and maybe somebody else. I always recommend that they try them out, or
Mhm.
I always recommend the pastor.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. You talked about the Q Center when it was led by Kendall Clausen as
Oh yeah.
a time when you felt belonging as a Black lesbian living in the white world of Portland.
Yep. Let me see. I think they were down close to the waterfront is where Q Center first started out, I think.
Mhm.
Or that's where I remember going. And Kendall Clausen was there, and oh, was she, whoa, this woman was dynamite.
Mm.
Her program, she was able to get people to volunteer, and it felt comfortable going in there. And uh, that's where I, started feeling that I could belong there. So I was with the Q Center for quite a while, trying to, we did a women of all color group, and we showed videos, we had talks, open, conversation, and that was still my way of, uh, trying to bring more awareness, I guess, or let's at least talk about it. I'm not judgmental. You can believe whichever way you want to believe. But I thought if you had more information, or if then decide. That's my thing. The more you know, then decide.
Mhm.
Right.
Mhm.
So, my right arm at the time was Karen Costner, I think her last name, Kastner,
Mhm.
white woman who she was there. She was there. But we have different ways of leadership. I found that between blacks and whites, for me, sometimes they're this linear way of doing things or thinking. And that was hard for me too,
Yeah.
because, with me, I talk to anybody on the street, you know. Sometimes I forget time because I'm busy interacting, or, I mean, that's how it's been. My life has been. So, you know, that's what we mean about CP time. Sometimes we're late, and
Mhm.
or I get stuck, or I need to do this for this person. And
Mhm.
yeah, and that wasn't understood, I don't think. Uh, so, and then it was more, oh man, I could see it was well attended at first. Oh, some beautiful, beautiful souls came off in there. But then there was racism. There was, and the way people thought. So, the only person you can change is yourself.
Mhm.
Mm,
So what?
yeah.
So racism was there too.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. It was, and feelings, people were in their feelings, some of them, they would complain to me later, and, it,
Mhm.
it just felt, I wanted to do something, for our community, or to build bridges like I talk about. I wanted so much to, but then I kept feeling I feel energy,
Mhm.
I'm not person,
Mhm.
and the energy sometimes was just,
Mhm.
you know, but I thank goodness for those people. There are some people there who are still in my corner to this day.
Yeah.
So I'm blessed to have met some of the women that I've met at Q Center, and
Yeah.
who participated. Karen Lamiga is one. Fern, my Fern.
Mhm.
Deborah Porter. There's a lot of people. Max.
Mhm.
So yeah,
Yeah.
Denise. So there's a lot of people that I hold to, and I'm so grateful they're in my life.
Hmm. Yeah. So you came to Portland
Mhm.
and you got
92.
and you got your master's degree at Portland State University in social
Mhm.
work.
Yep.
And then you worked with child protective services and with the
Yep.
foster care system.
Yep. I did. I came here because my sister Janice was here, and
Mhm.
she was with the sheriff's department.
Mhm.
She went up through the ranks there to captain,
Mhm.
and I got accepted in the MSW program at PSU, and I also got accepted at Howard University in Washington. But I'm an older student, and I didn't think I could manage. And then I had my sister here, and she
Mhm.
helped find me a place, and and she was known in the LGBTQ communities. Um, she did things on Measure 9,
Mhm.
and I learned through her. I would come up to visit uh, before I moved here, so I got to know some of the people. LCP was huge back then.
Mhm.
The Lesbian Community Project.
Mhm.
Um, so uh, that's how I got to know people here in Portland, was through her. She was a DJ.
Hmm.
So I got to go, I would help her with her equipment.
Mhm.
And she was Miss Boogie.
Wow.
So yeah, she was Miss Boogie, and she loved it here, and she loved the community. I remember. And she was the one. I used to call her the wilderness woman,
Hmm.
because she loved canoeing and all of those, going in the mountains. She took me camping,
Hmm.
you know, and here I am, kind of a city person
Mhm.
more.
Hmm.
So yeah, she took me salmon fishing on the ocean. She turned me on to a lot of things here, and
Mhm.
I miss her every day.
Mhm.
And I got to meet Kathleen Sadat
Hmm.
and Rupert. Rupert gives the best parties. I try and get people to come with me.
Mhm.
Uh, he throws the best parties in Portland, he and his partner, Scott.
Mhm.
And so, I was always inviting people, come with me, come do this. Come do that, trying to expose them maybe, or, I'm always trying to show folks that, you know what, we're human. We're human. We're in this together. We're, that kind of thing. Sometimes it worked. Most times it didn't. People just, they, I don't know what it is here. I try and tell folks too, you know what, if you're waiting for Black people to come to you, you're going to be waiting. You know what I mean? You have to go into their community, show courage, show whatever by, coming and showing that you're interested, showing that you're intentional, But that's hard to do here. It's been really hard. And then, you asked me about the Black community. Whew. Homophobia is huge here, to me, I've learned. Also, most of the churches see us as sinners or, whatever else they see us. And they will sanction you. I've felt that. They will, you don't get invited to things, you don't, you can invite them, they don't come, or uh, I don't even know the words for it, but it's different here. I went to, here's an example. I went to Urban League. I will tell you this, back when I was turning 65. And I went to Urban League first. I mean, you need to know something, go to Urban League. That's what you do. So I went, and I wanted information on Social Security because I was getting all these things in the mail and I didn't know what to do. So I just needed, kind of direction, and I got nothing. And to this day, I don't think that they really are open to, as far as I know, are open to LGBTQ folks. It's not a welcoming place. I haven't been in a long time. The first time I went, I think when Joanne Hardesty, she was trying to do some positive things when she was the president of the Urban League. But after that, I haven't seen anything. I don't hear of anything. So, I find other places. I found Friendly House, in fact. Who helped me, who had an attorney I could talk to, who had all these services. But yet they're across the river in Northwest. So there's a lot of people who didn't know about, Friendly House because we figured it was just for white people. But Max is doing a lot of things to make sure that there's inclusion. But I remember over there, I was at this meeting and this white woman told me what I was asking for was I needed to wait. It's not time. Shut up. Well, she didn't tell me to shut up, but that was the message. It was too soon. It was, all this stuff. So.
And what were you?
I beg your pardon?
What was she wanting you to wait for? Or what?
I think I was talking about some of the programs coming across the river because I knew people wouldn't go there. The buses or something, they didn't really know what what Friendly House, well, the SAGE program then. And there was a couple of people over there who were willing, who were wanting to do it. So I did find that kind of response there. So, and hopefully that's happening now. I see them more and more trying to do things that include all people, all LGBTQ folks, IA++. I hope we find a name for all of us. I tell you, we need to come up with this awesome name that reflects everybody's identity or gender or whatever. But I guess until then, we'll just have to keep adding pluses.
Pluses and stars and sun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm gonna check and see. Oh, okay, it's 20 after 4. I wanted to.
Oh, wow.
I know we need more time. Another interview. So as I'm listening to you, you've spent so much, and actually I remember talking with Adrienne. I keep thinking about Adrienne. She said to me, Margaret Ann was always so generous and compassionate with me as a white person and patient, as you helped her understand racism and its effects on her, what you were living through, and it seems like so much of your life has been trying to build bridges to white communities, for the purpose of creating space and affirmation for you and other people of color. And I guess as you're looking back on all of that, what is it that you want white people, white women to understand, to know, to do? Like, what is the teaching like? Because I'm also hearing you say, we're not getting it.
You know, you can look back through, through some of the feminist movements, even the vote, Black women especially have been there. We've had to wait in a lot of cases and white women had to take the lead, but, it was what I guess had to happen at the time, but we were there. I think, but some kind of way it gets lost. It gets, when we're asking for the things we need, it's like I said, it's too soon, or we gotta wait, or, it's those kinds of things. Yet, when we have been able to come together and work together, we have gained so much, but then I think it's the systemic racism plays a part. I think, that some kind of way it limits our power. And I've gotten to travel and also to be around different cultures, and it's like, oh my, the beauty, that you can find, the traditions that you can find, how families, being a social worker, I got to go into some of the homes, and there's certain things you learn when you go into a Latino home. You better give respect to that dad, but the person you give the respect to most is grandma. you know, and those little things. And it's like when I would go to anybody's home, right? I would look around and notice, oh, they collect elephants, or oh, they do this, or you know what I mean? And so that opens the door somewhat to a conversation, a meaningful conversation to me, you know? And I think that's lost. You know, a lot of white people, you start talking about yourself, and the next thing is they tell you about their self, and you shut up. You know, they don't want to hear about you, you know, so I think that's limiting. Um, you know, that I've had relationships, you know, intimate relationship. And the thing that I noticed was, uh, you know, there's this kind of competition, maybe. Not, it kind of feels like competition, but it feels like you're having to explain, you know, all the time. It's like, you know, do you see this? Are you able to see it? Do you get it? You know, and and I don't know why that is. I, you know, and it's not all at all. I've met, like I said, I met some wonderful folks, and I'm happy I got them in my life. But you know, and then there's the ageism. You know, I've been in groups where, uh, you know, people will say break up and talk to, you know, they don't come talk to me. They don't, you know what I mean? They talk among each other,
Mhm.
you know, and I see they're just more comfortable that way. You know, so for what I would say is you have to be more intentional. You have to learn yourself. You know, Black people are now telling you to go Google it. We get so tired, you know, trying to tell you or explain or share or whatever. And it's, you know, we're tired. We've been talking about this for the longest, and like the white supremacy, the killing of Black people, it took videos, you know, to document this stuff for to me, so white people would finally get it. Look at this, you know. And my thing is, I would say, you know, what if this was your brother or sister or your uncle? What if? How would you feel? You know, how would I have to tell my son or my grandson to be careful? Or when you see a cop, keep your hands at 10 and 2. I mean, that's survival stuff. You know, here in the US of A, and it just blows my mind.
Yeah.
How can you take away and feel okay about taking away somebody's life? And you're shooting them in the back. It's not even,
Mhm.
you know what I mean? It's not, it doesn't make sense to me, except it's white supremacy, it's systemic racism. That's what else could it be, you know? And humanity. Loss, for me, the price of privilege for some, it cost their humanity. That's what I believe. That's what I've seen. Yep.
Yeah.
Because if you think you're better than somebody else, then that someone has to be below you, and that's how you treat them. So that's why I've tried to do what I've done is, we're not that different. I'm not a thief. I'm not going to break into your house. You know, all those stereotypes that you have in your mind, that's not me. Get to know me. Check me out. As a human being. That's all, as a human being. And I'm going to do the same for you. This one person used to say, oh, and I've stolen her word. She goes, if there was an earthquake and you, white person, were in a hole trying to get out and your life was on the line, are you going to care if my black hand reaches in there to pull you out?
Mm.
You know what I mean? Hell no, you want to get out that hole. And that's what it is. I mean, and I've seen it during disasters and whatever. I've seen white people grab black kids out of the river or whatever, so the capacity is there. We do have that, some folks, so.
We need to understand the disaster of white supremacy.
Exactly. You need to see it. And hopefully people are. There's this other thing I believe in. It's been predicted that there's going to be this great awakening, and I'm hoping for that, where white people will see, that a lot of this stuff is just not right. It's not, it's just not right. So I'm waiting for the awakening. And I do believe it's happening. I really do. There's sometimes when I go out, there are people being nicer, kinder, strangers, and in the little social ways that people let and then I turn around, like somebody opens the door for me, I turn around and open it for them and thank them, so, and I see more and more of that happening. Hopefully more conversations will happen. Hopefully people will get to know a Black friend or Latino friend or an Asian friend, or, this stuff that's happening with the Asians too. It's just heartbreaking.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Grief producing. Yeah.
It is. It is. And another thing, I don't want white people feeling guilty. That's another thing. Don't waste your guilt. You weren't there. You didn't do anything. You know what I mean? But your guilt keeps you in one place. You don't move forward. You know what I mean? You're so busy, thinking about your own grief and that kind of stuff. No, be intentional. Make it your business to go attend something. Be brave. Come go with me. We'll go to, the Pacific Islanders are doing this cultural thing, and it's wonderful. I've gone. Malo does a real, and her crew. They do a really wonderful job, and just to sit there and listen to the music and conversate, man,
Mm-hmm.
you leave there with good feelings, and it's the more you know.
Yeah.
So that's what I would tell white folks, especially white women, especially LGBTQ folks. You know, we know what it is to be discriminated against. And why are you doing it to someone in your own community? I don't get that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Can't you tell I'm a preacher's daughter?
Mhm. Yep, it's beautiful. Margaret Ann, I want to thank you for this time and the gift of you and all your thoughts and experiences. And yeah, and Deborah is here now. I think she will be moderating questions.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
Yeah, I just want to, we haven't had questions come in, but I just want to open it up to questions. I could sit and you know, listen to Margaret Ann and there's just no way to put into words the impact that you have on our community. But the words need to be said anyway. But I just want to put out there, I know we have definitely some folks. Ruth, thank you again for being our inspiration. S.L. Sanders says you're awesome. And Max, really appreciate your story. And we both agree, all of us are super fortunate to have you in our lives. But in the few minutes that we have left, I just want to see if folks have specific questions or specific comments that they want to share with Margaret Ann. You can just either put it in the chat or let me know. You could probably actually ask Margaret Ann directly.
I had a question, but I
be shy now. Say it again.
I have a question, but I can hold off just to make sure that there aren't questions from guests.
Sure. Let's go ahead, Deb. Let's see if it sparks some folks.
Yeah. So Margaret Ann, when we were talking the other day, you were sharing your vision for women of color in the LGBTQ community, and you were talking about racism as a public health issue and wanting to bring people together. It was sort of as you were looking forward, sort of the next ways you wanted to just bring your beautiful self vision into, like, to inject it into people and start moving and organizing again. Do you remember talking about that? Could you share more of that vision? It was really beautiful.
I think I was talking about like the women of all color group were also there. We have it's not going to be our the name we stick with, but the Oregon Black Lesbians. There's a small group of us, and what I wanted to do was Zoom, since Zoom's going to be a thing with us now, is to invite community folks. I was thinking I've been hearing about this awesome Black counselor that's doing some wonderful work at the Aville Gordley Center. Just to have them come and talk to us about, healthy mental health, things that we can do, or somebody we're talking about having not just Black lesbians, but lesbians of color. So Latina, Asian, Pacific Islanders, for seniors though, for us getting together, I think, ages 50 plus, and just making sure that we're okay, that if there are services that they need, that we find that for them, or we have a guest speaker who'll come and talk to us about different things, finances, whatever. Um, we, as we get older, like I'm 72, and I know that there's other 70-year-olds and 80-year-olds out there who, to make sure that they're not isolated, you know. So those are some of the things we've been talking about. Have socials. Oh, I really would like to take time, come up with a group. We tried this before, but to go out to Helen's View, there's an awesome principal who, who's doing some specialized programming out there. They have kids, it's from school to prison pipeline. These are kids who've gone through that system. And there's some who have, the teen girls out there have babies, and I thought that it would be a good idea. We've got grandmas, we could go out and just hold a group and talk to these young mothers and hold babies, or, there's that would be very helpful, I think, for us seniors to do, and other things. I'm sure that there's people out there who have other ideas, but let's work together. Let's, come up with something that we can give to the community, at large. So those are some of the ideas that we've been talking about.
You sound wonderful.
Yeah.
So I think everyone either thinks they know you really well, or they know you now, or they're just a little shy. Because we have lots of comments. People feel really strongly about you, and that's good. Ethan's with us. You're always organizing, always thinking about community. You amaze me, Margaret Ann. Love you.
Ethan amazes me, trust me.
Well, how do you want to end this conversation? Ruth actually wants to know how you can support, and I know the name is changing, the new Portland group that you've started, that you were just mentioning, Lesbians of Color.
Well, one thing, we need to meet on, just lesbians of color, but then we need allies as well. I would like to see us be able to, do things for ourselves, but yet, have programs that all of us can participate in, or, things that might be of interest, to others. I'd like to have that. But here, there's very few positive, arenas that we as lesbians of color that we have here that, hold space for us. So we're going to have to do that on our own, and, I would challenge, especially white women, to, grab your album and see how many people of color you got in there. You know what I mean? And if you don't have any at all, you know, maybe it's time. Come get to know us. Come, you know, be intentional.
So what's the best way that folks can connect with you to
Probably
be able to do that?
Facebook.
Okay.
Right now, we're on Facebook. And, you know, we will have the women of color group, and then it'll be the women of all color group because that's still going. And so we're trying to figure out how can we do more things with, you know, those white women who want to join us. So that's in the plans too. But what other kind of things can we do for ourselves? You know, to promote ourselves, to build self-confidence, to, you know, enjoy ourselves, those kinds of things without the, you know.
Yeah.
So, and they could get a hold of you too, Deb. You can send them our way.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. If anyone doesn't know how to connect directly, just let me know.
There you go. Sage is there, you know. So, I think just making sure that, you know, if you're in your meetings or whatever, you know, make sure that, you know, what are you folks doing around inclusion? You know, always ask that question. And what are you doing for seniors? That's another thing, you know, because we do have the ageism going on. Yeah, those kinds of things. Ask the questions and wait for an answer. Yep.
That. Oh, yeah.
I know you do.
Well, there's not any closing I can give that's going to be better than the conversation that just happened. But I really appreciate you, Margaret Ann, sharing yourself with us always, and especially in this forum. And now I have all kinds of questions about Barbara Jordan because I'm from Texas, so I'm like, oh my God, it's Barbara Jordan.
You know, somebody told me once that they thought she was a lesbian.
There's a lot of people that she never came out, but the assumption is because she had a long relationship.
Yeah.
But so yeah, that was and it's interesting because that's Senator Gordley is the one that steered me to reading Barbara Jordan's autobiography years ago. So there was like a circle connection there that happened.
Yeah.
So I just want to thank you, obviously, for joining us, for all that you do, and just all the stuff. And Deb, thank you again for leading the conversation and asking the questions and doing the thing, basically.
It was an honor to be here. Thanks.
Hopefully, Deb and I are going to be doing some things too.
Right on, right on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll wait for news for that one.
Oh.
But with that, I think we're going to close it out. And, you know, everyone take care, stay safe. You know, hopefully the recent heat wave is at least the worst heat wave for a long time. We'll see. But take care, look out for each other, and we'll see you next month.
Thank you, everyone. Love ya.
Thank you.